Prologue. Before the first civilizations, long before the first pyramids touched the desert sky, and long before humans etched their earliest symbols into stone, there existed a civilization hidden from the world. A civilization whose brilliance would one day become a whisper carried by ocean waves. This was Atlantis. A kingdom so advanced, so radiant, so impossible, that even the greatest modern scientists cannot explain how such wonders could have existed thousands of years ago. But the Atlanteans were not like us. They understood the Earth in ways we still struggle to imagine. They believed that every mountain, every river, every star was alive, connected by unseen threads of energy. And it was this energy that allowed them to build a world unlike any we have ever known. Atlantis was built in perfect rings of land and water, surrounded by massive walls that shone like polished silver. At its center towered the Celestial Spire, the tallest structure on the planet, rising so high that its tip disappeared into the morning fog. The city never slept. Soft blue light filled the streets, emitted from Aether Crystals, glowing stones that pulsed with pure energy. These crystals powered everything, floating platforms that carried citizens across districts, enormous telescopes that mapped the stars with perfect precision, healing chambers that could cure wounds in minutes, underwater domes where scholars studied ocean creatures. Towering machines that lifted stone as if it weighed nothing. Knowledge was not only power, it was sacred. Every child studied mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and engineering. Their schools were temples, and their scientists were heroes. Atlantis believed it had reached the peak of existence. They believed nothing could ever threaten them. They were wrong. Deep beneath the city lay ancient caverns, older than Atlantis itself. Few dared enter them, for they were said to be the dwelling place of forgotten forces. But one man was not afraid. Ilinderthale, the youngest and most brilliant engineer of his generation, believed the caverns held the key to unlimited power. He had spent years studying the Aether Crystals, convinced that there must be a deeper, more primal source of their energy. And one night, after months of searching, he found it. A cavern so vast it felt like standing inside the heart of the earth, and at its center pulsed a massive sphere of swirling light, a storm of blue and gold trapped within a crystalline shell. This was the Aether Core, the true source of Atlantis' power. Older than the city, older than mankind, alive. When Ilinder touched it, the cavern trembled. For the first time in centuries, the core awakened, and it whispered. Not in words, but in visions. A city bathed in impossible light machines capable of bending reality knowledge beyond the reach of gods. Ilinder saw a future where Atlantis would rule not just the Earth, but the stars. But he also saw something else, a great crack spreading across the core like a wound in the flesh of the planet. He ignored the warning. With the core awakened, Atlantis entered its greatest age. Machines that once seemed impossible were suddenly real. Towers that floated in midair. Enormous submarines shaped like glowing serpents, weaponry that could cut through mountains, armor that made warriors strong as giants. The people worshipped Ilinder like a hero. The king named him Archon of Progress, the highest scientific rank, but not everyone celebrated. The Order of the Tide, the ancient guardians of tradition, warned that touching the core was forbidden. They claimed it was a living consciousness, a force that balanced all life. To drain its power was to wound the earth itself. Ilinder ignored them. Atlantis grew, its armies expanded. Its ships reached distant lands, and the core weakened. The glow that once pulsed gently now flickered in uneven rhythms. Small tremors shook the lower districts. Animals fled the coastlines. Something ancient was stirring beneath the sea. At first, the warnings were small, so small that the glory-blinded citizens of Atlantis dismissed them as nothing more than nature's breath. But nature does not tremble without reason. It began with the fisherman's tide. For thousands of years, the ocean around Atlantis had been calm, its waters crystal clear and warm. But now, fishermen reported strange currents pulling their boats toward the deep. Enormous shadows drifted beneath the surface, moving slowly, deliberately, as if awakening from an ancient sleep. Then came the black storms. Clouds formed in perfect spirals, their centers glowing faintly blue, the same blue as the Aether Crystals. Lightning cracked in straight lines, reaching toward the city like claws. But the most disturbing part wasn't the storms themselves. It was their silence. Thunder never followed. The order of the tide warned the king. The core is breaking. The earth is trying to heal itself, but the king, blinded by prosperity, dismissed them. Elinder called the warnings fear-driven superstition. Yet deep inside, he knew something was wrong. The crack in the core one night, Elinder descended once more into the cavern of light. There, beneath the pulsing glow, he saw what he had refused to face. A long, jagged fracture now cut through the Aether Core. Energy bled from it like smoke from a dying fire. And every time the core attempted to repair itself, the crack spread further. The visions it once granted him were gone. Now it showed him only one thing, a city sinking beneath the waves. Elinder stumbled back, breath shaking. He had done this. He had awakened something the world was never meant to touch, but it was too late to stop. It happened during the Festival of Lights, the grandest celebration in Atlantis. Thousands filled the streets, floating lanterns painted the night sky in shimmering blue. Music echoed across the water, and then the ground roared. Not trembled, roared, a deep, monstrous sound like the earth itself crying in pain. The first tower collapsed within seconds, falling like a crumbling pillar of glass. Massive waves rose from all sides, slamming into the lower districts. Cracks tore through the streets, glowing with blinding light as ether energy surged out of the ground like liquid fire. People screamed. The sky split open with glowing fractures of blue lightning. At the center of the chaos, the celestial spire, the tallest building in the world, began to tilt. Slowly at first, then faster, until it snapped and crashed into the ocean with an explosion that sent tidal waves across the entire island. Beneath the city, the Aether Core had shattered, and with it shattered the balance of the earth. Water poured over the edges of the city like a living beast reclaiming its territory. Entire districts disappeared beneath the waves in minutes. The mighty walls that had guarded Atlantis for centuries shattered as if struck by a god. Elinder raced through the collapsing streets, desperately trying to reach the Cavern of Light, believing he could somehow repair what he had destroyed. But when he arrived, the cavern was already flooding, and the remnants of the core lay scattered, shards of glowing, dying crystal. In the water, he saw reflections, not of his face, but of Atlantis sinking into oblivion. The mighty empire he had helped build was dissolving into the sea. He fell to his knees as the ceiling of the cavern cracked above him. The last survivors, high above the city, on a hill overlooking the destruction, the Order of the Tide gathered a small group of citizens, children, scholars, healers, and activated a hidden escape mechanism that had been built generations ago. A sphere of crystal and water rose from the collapsing island, carrying them far away from the dying continent. These survivors would one day spread the last fragments of Atlantean knowledge to distant lands. Some say they became the ancestors of Egypt's priests. Others say they brought astronomy to ancient Greece. Others claim they founded cultures long forgotten by time. But they carried one truth with them. Atlantis fell not because of nature, but because of its own pride. Epilogue. The city that still breathes, even now, deep beneath the ocean. The ruins of Atlantis remain, silent, cold, waiting. Some say the core still flickers faintly in the darkness. Others believe it is healing, preparing to awaken again. And if it does, the world may witness the rise of Atlantis once more. And so, Atlantis sank beneath the waves, not destroyed by nature, but by its own ambition. A reminder that even the greatest empires can fall when their reach exceeds their wisdom. Thank you for watching this journey into ancient mystery. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next adventure. See you in the next story, and remember, some legends never truly die. Thank you for watching this story until the end. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want more adventures like this, feel free to check out my other videos. There are many more mysteries waiting for you. See you next time.